Hello, today I want to welcome back our special guest, Karina Price, who is an incredible woman who's walked the path of overcoming social anxiety and now helps others to do the same. Karina's story is not just about her expertise, but about real, relatable experiences that resonate with what so many of us go through. Today she's sharing how hypnotherapy and integral eye movement therapy can be life-changing tools for anyone feeling held back by trauma and anxiety. Together we explore practical tips and share stories that remind us we're not alone in our struggles. So get ready to feel inspired and empowered as I dive deep with Karina. Welcome to the Secrets in the Powder Room, where we share stories and open up conversations about all the secrets women forced to keep out of fear and shame. I'm Louise Bryant, professional certified coach, intuitive eating counsellor and trauma-informed domestic abuse specialist and survivor. We're here to support you on your healing journey and help you feel like you're not alone. This is not to be a replacement of your own professional, medical or legal advice. This podcast contains adult language and content. Listener discretion is advised. I'm so excited to get started, but make sure you hang around until the end when I offer some journaling and reflection questions to help you on your healing journey. And before we get started, I would really appreciate it if you would please leave a review and rating, as this really helps the show. And I love reading your thoughts and feedback. And if you're listening on YouTube, please subscribe and give a thumbs up. And thank you so much for your support. Hi, Karina, how are you?
Hello, good morning, Louise. I'm very well, thank you. Thank you for having me.
It's an absolute pleasure. It's good to have you here again. And I'm really looking forward to talking about therapy and IEMT and how that helps with social anxiety. So, shall we get started?
Yes, of course. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
So I just wanted to remind you that Karina is an award-winning anxiety specialist, hypnotherapist and qualified yoga teacher who has a personal journey with social anxiety. With a warm and empathetic approach and a solution-focused mindset, Karina helps individuals find inner calm and overcome their anxiety challenges. Through her own journey, Karina brings a relatable perspective and practical tools to help support others on their path to healing and self-discovery. So Karina, can you just give us a bit of an insight and explain what hypnotherapy and IEMT are and how do they help women with social anxiety and trauma?
Yes, of course. So I'll just share a little bit to start off with, what social anxiety is, because quite often there's a misconception that social anxiety is simply feeling a little bit shy in social situations, but it's much, much more than that. And it affects about 1 in 14 of us in the population. So social anxiety is when we feel a real strong fear and nervousness in social situations. So we fear being judged, we worry about what people think about us, and we fear being embarrassed and saying or doing something wrong. And usually there is a limiting belief underlying that we're not good enough, that other people are inferior to us. And when we think of it in terms of trauma, quite often trauma can trigger social anxiety because it undermines our sense of safety and security. So what we know is, what the research tells us is that if we've experienced trauma in some point of our life, typically it's childhood, then we're at more risk of social anxiety by about 50%. So a lot of people who've experienced trauma, whether it's domestic violence or in childhood or any form of trauma in their lives, it increases the risk of social anxiety, that sense of not feeling safe, feeling judged, or that we are inferior to other people. And solution-focused hypnotherapy and integral eye movement therapy, they're really effective, natural ways to be able to help people to reduce social anxiety and also help to work through any trauma that they may have experienced. So solution-focused hypnotherapy, essentially what that is, it is a combination of like mindset coaching. So we use modalities like NLP, CBT, solution-focused therapy, and hypnosis to help to reframe negative beliefs and feelings, change any unhelpful beliefs that we might have about ourselves. So that's, like I said, a combination of mindset coaching combined with hypnosis, which is a deep state of relaxation. It's kind of like we're turning down the fear center on the brain, part of the brain, the amygdala, that's responsible for keeping us safe and looking out for danger. And a lot of the time when we've experienced trauma, that part of the brain, the fear center, is very, very hypersensitive. So we're more likely for that safety officer in our mind to be on lookout wherever we are looking for danger. Hence why we're in social situations, we can feel more anxious and nervous and scared because our safety officers looking around for potential dangers, like the way someone looks at us, the way someone might react, the verbal, non-verbal cues. So when we're in a state of hypnosis, we're highly relaxed. It's like we're turning down the dial on that safety officer, that fear center part of the brain, and we're allowing the subconscious mind to be very open to positive suggestions, how we want to be feeling, safe, confident, calm, in control, really helping us to let go of any limiting beliefs. So that's the wonderful world of solution-focused hypnotherapy. And I also combine it in the sessions with integral eye movement therapy, which is a really nice way to help us reduce any negative feelings that we might be holding on to, and to kind of like reprocess it. So it's if you imagine integral eye movement therapy is kind of like a windscreen wiper in your brain. It's wiping away all of the smudges in your mind to make you see a clearer picture, a much more helpful perspective on the situation. And it's very, very effective. So let's say, for example, let's give you an example, Louise, and your lovely listeners. So, okay, this is a really good example. So I always share this one with my clients. So if you imagine, Louise, most of us have watched the movie Jaws. It's pretty scary. Yeah, you remember?
Oh yeah,
yeah.
We watched that quite recently. Yeah, we've been watching 1 to 4. So yeah.
Okay, so for those of you who are listening, perhaps you haven't watched it in a long time. I haven't watched it in a couple of decades. It's a long time. But when I watched it, I was really, really scared. It was really realistic. It was scary. And when I imagine it now, it makes me feel a bit like, oh gosh, I don't think I'd want to watch that movie. It's really scary. And instantly my brain is pattern matching. It's going back to how it felt. It felt awful. So if I was to watch the movie now on my TV, I would have a very, very different experience. The film would look very old. The special effects wouldn't be very good. I probably wouldn't be very scared. I'd be looking at it thinking, oh my goodness, that doesn't even look like a real shark. The acting's not great. And I wouldn't have the same reaction, so I wouldn't feel as anxious. I wouldn't feel as nervous. And my perception of the movie would be different. So this is what integral eye movement does. It helps us. We have a set of eye exercises where the brain is retrieving the memory. We're going back to when we felt a particular way. It's pulling it into the now, and we can have a very different perception of the situation. It's a very quick and easy and simple exercise, but it's very, very powerful. So it's changing the way that we perceive a situation and the way that we feel about it. So the two combined, the hypnotherapy, integral eye movement therapy, very, very good way of reducing anxiety and changing any unhelpful memories that we might have about particular situations.
Okay, so I use a technique called the rewind technique, which is designed to help you process a traumatic event without the need to relive or verbally share them in detail. So how it works is you'll think of a specific event and in your mind, and then you'll watch it on the screen, and then you'll imagine yourself jumping in and rewinding away from it, and it creates a sense of distance. And this approach allows you to process the trauma without the emotional tensity often associated with talk therapy or exposure therapy, in a gentle way to heal without needing to retell your story. So is it kind of a bit like that?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. It's very, very similar to the rewind technique. And so it's content free. So when we're working with a client, we don't need to have lengthy talks about the traumatic event or why they're feeling anxious or the panic attack, whatever it might be. We're simply very similar to the rewind. We're asking them to think about it without sharing it, which sometimes that can feel safer. And the brain becomes, it's becoming nicely bored. And we're accessing different parts of the brain. We're retrieving the memory. We're going back to the feeling. And it's kind of like when we sleep at night. If you think about REM sleep, rapid eye movement, let's just say we had an argument with our boss or maybe someone offended us and we felt really sad. We would go home, we'd go to sleep. REM would work its magic. It would, put into the library of what's important, and it would let go of what's not. And so we would be having a very different feeling about the situation. The next day we'd wake up, we wouldn't feel as upset or as angry because our REM sleep had basically processed it properly. Yeah. And so this is what integral eye movement's doing. It's processing, it's letting go of what's no longer needed, no longer relevant. And then we have a new experience, a new perception. We're not getting rid of the memory. So it's not like we're kind of erasing it. The memory will always be there, but it's a bit like the Jaws example. Jaws movie is still there, but the way that we look at it, the way that we feel about it, it's very, very different.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
Also, have you got any examples or stories about how hypnotherapy and IEMT, as I keep remembering that, have benefited any of your clients?
Yeah. So I love them both, and they're so nicely aligned. So I've got lots of examples, but we'll be here all day. But the ones that kind of stick in my mind are ones where it's had real kind of, significant impacts on people's lives. So, I worked with a lady recently who she could not leave her house. Whenever she went out, she was having extreme panic attacks. She was struggling financially because she didn't have the confidence to go out and work. And she come in and we did several sessions of hypnotherapy and integral eye movement therapy. And she started to feel less anxious because the memory that was in her mind that was holding her back, that she wasn't really consciously aware of, she wasn't going back to it, but her subconscious mind was pattern matching. So we were able to kind of release the emotion to that. And we had the integral eye movement therapy. And when I said, what happens now when you try to access that feeling, when you think about that time, she said, the feeling's gone from a 10, high level anxiety, right down to a 0. Or, the memory. What happens now when you're trying to think about the memory? Before, she was in the memory. She was looking through her own eyes. It was scary. It was daunting. After the session, she was be able to see it from an outside perspective. She could see her younger self in the room in a really scary situation. She was standing back with much more empathy for that younger self. So she wasn't coming from a place of I'm scared, I'm anxious. It was like, wow, that younger version of me actually needs love and empathy, and I just want to go and scoop her up. So that helped her to, she reduced the panic attacks and she was able to start going out and living her life again.
How many sessions did that take for her to get there?
So for that particular client I was working, it was 6 sessions.
Cool. So you haven't erased it from her mind or made her completely forget about what's happened.
Yeah.
She just sees it differently.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So the memory is still there, but she feels very differently about it. So I'll give you another example. I'm currently working with a client at the moment, and we're working on a phobic response. But what kept coming up for him was that whenever he thinks about doing the thing that he doesn't want to do, he's feeling really anxious. So in integral eye movement therapy, it's about, okay, so I want you to think about the first time you can remember feeling this way. So it doesn't have to be the first time, but the first time you can remember having this feeling now. And so they'll go back to a memory that quite often is not related to the thing that they're scared about now. They're going back to a memory the first time they can remember feeling this intense feeling of anxiety. For him, it was going back to a real traumatic experience of, he was choking in a canteen, everyone was staring at him and he felt like he couldn't breathe and he felt really helpless. And after that, he developed a real fear of social situations, eating in front of people, being in big crowds. And so we did one session of integral eye movement therapy. And after that, his whole experience of that memory had just gone. He was no longer seeing it through those eyes. He was watching himself in the canteen and thinking, oh my goodness, hope he's okay. And actually, yeah, you are okay. You've got this. And that level of anxiety went right down to a 0. The feeling had disconnected from the memory. So the brain could process, okay, you are safe in social situations. It is safe to kind of eat in front of people. That was in one session. We're still working on the phobic response, but in terms of the memory, he's got a very different experience with it now.
Wow. And there's another thing as well. I mean, you mentioned earlier about NLP, because obviously I'm an NLP practitioner too. So, and sometimes we can use things where you go back to the situation and turn down, see how bright it is, see what color it is, see how big it is. And you can make people things smaller. You can make colors change, turn it into black and white, turn the sound down, maybe speed it up to make it funny. And it's kind of that changing the way that you see that memory. to.
Absolutely. And, and when we think about it, what's going on here is that our brain is very, very powerful. And if we tap into it correctly, we can be very confident, calm, we can overcome, situations that cause us a lot of fear, tapping into the power of the subconscious mind. And that's what we're really doing when we're using NLP. We're tapping into the subconscious mind, which runs the show 90% of the time. So how we respond to life, to situations, our fears, our, limiting beliefs, how we react to people, our subconscious triggers. The subconscious mind is like that supercomputer. It's the program in the background responding to whether we're going to have a panic attack in Aldi's. It's triggered from that supercomputer. It's not safe. We mustn't do this. We mustn't be in a social situation. And as we start to use these wonderful techniques like hypnosis, NLP, integral eye movement therapy, essentially what we're doing is we are using the power of the brain to update the program in our supercomputer so that we have a very different perception of the situation. And that's what it comes down to. So it's not that we're changing the situation. We're not going to go into Aldi's at a certain time of the day and all of a sudden there's no people there. There will still be people there, but we won't feel as anxious. We won't be having panic attacks because our brain's perception is that it's safe. Our brain's perception is, I can handle this. Our brain's perception is, I've got all of the resources within me to be able to deal with this right now. And we feel much more calmer and in control, and the nervous system feels safe. So they're all wonderful techniques to help update the program in the supercomputer.
Would this be a kind of similar thing with imposter syndrome?
Yes, absolutely. So imposter syndrome and social anxiety, they're closely linked. And quite often the two come hand in hand because with social anxiety, we have, like I mentioned before, this underlying belief that we're not good enough. This belief that whatever we do is we're going to get it wrong. People are going to judge us. It's not good enough. So we tend to start to have imposter syndrome. So lots of people can present as, really confident to the outside world. People with social anxiety can still be functioning. We can be in jobs. We might be, managing teams. We might be running a busy household. And our household, we've got it all together in our house and care responsibilities. But there could be an undercurrent there of, oh, I'm winging it. If people really found out how I really felt, any minute now, it's all going to go wrong. And so it's kind of like that we've got like a cognitive distortion of a lot of the time we're mind reading, we're assuming what other people think. Other people think I'm doing it wrong. Other people think I'm not good enough. Other people think that I'm not worthy, or I'm stupid, or I don't deserve this. So we're always kind of assuming what other people think, which is completely a cognitive distortion. It's not true at all. And that's why hypnosis and integral eye movement therapy can help to change those beliefs and those distortions in the brain.
Yeah, because it could be, like you say, going back to childhood, even just like a sibling or a teacher or somebody that sort of like makes you feel like you're stupid. Like my eldest brother always used to call me stupid growing up. So I've had this belief growing up that I'm not good enough, I'm not clever enough, I'm stupid. That's really stuck with me. The stuff that I've had to work through. That's just that little thing. Like it's just sibling rivalry. He didn't mean it really in any kind of way, but it's deep rooted, isn't it?
Yeah, it is deep rooted, and the subconscious mind will see that as a trauma. We might not now see that as a trauma, a traumatic event, but the subconscious mind absolutely will. So if we're in a situation where we felt embarrassed or silly, or we've been put on the spot and we've gone into that primitive emotional part of the brain and it's triggered fight or flight, the subconscious mind will pattern match. It'll be like, okay, you feel this way because people are judging you. You feel this way because you're vulnerable. People are staring. And so it will pattern match and it will go into the supercomputer. Like for me, for example, I have dyslexia, and I wasn't diagnosed with dyslexia until I went to university, and I went to uni later on. I was about 22. So, I had many situations where, I was asked to read in class and all the words are moving around and I couldn't get my words out. I would mispronounce words in conversations with my friends. I couldn't think of the right word to say. So I had a real belief that I was, stupid, that people would judge me. I felt really ashamed, other people are getting the grades, other people are brave enough to put their hands up. Why am I so shy? And it does, those smaller traumas in childhood can absolutely stick with us. A subconscious mind will just simply pattern match. And the subconscious mind is not rational, it's not logical. So it won't see that situation as, well, you were 7, you asked to read and it was really embarrassing, but social situations are very different now. It's safe now. It's not rational or logical. It just sees as when everyone was staring at you and you were in a group, it's scary and it's dangerous. Let's avoid that. And so we'll start to feel anxious and overwhelmed whenever we go into a social situation. And that's what happened to me. And I think I shared on your previous podcast, Louise, that I had a real social anxiety growing up, real kind of fear of the attention being on me, public speaking, performance anxieties, all those things. And even now, it kind of pops up even now, I'll kind of be very mindful. Oh, here we go. It's my safety officer, let's put you back in your box. And now I've got the skills. I know what's going on. I know it's my safety officer trying to protect me, and it's pulling out those experiences from my childhood. And I'll move it to one side. Okay, thank you for trying to protect me, but I've got this. And I'll redirect to a much more helpful thought. It's okay. It's fine. I've got this. I'm in control.
Yeah, I had a situation quite recently. I did I launched a networking event, and I was reading something out, and similar to you, like I've sort of had a dyslexic diagnosis as an adult, and I read something out, and I could read it fine. I could read it fine in my head. I could read it fine at home. As soon as I was standing in front of 20 women trying to read this paragraph from a book, my words just weren't. It's like my brain and my mouth weren't kind of connecting, and then I felt myself go red, and then I was like, this is awful, and I had to finish the whole thing. And yeah, so that kind of, and I'm again going back to like you saying, like having these tools going, I know I've got this, I'm not, but that whole social anxiety thing coming, as soon as the words started messing up a little bit in my mouth, coming out from my brain, from my mouth, it just sent me spiraling, and just wanted the ground to open up and to be thrown into it.
And your brain knows exactly what's going on, and it will go into your hippocampus, your library. It's okay, what do we normally do in these situations? What's got us through before? And for most of us, it will be let's run away, let's never do this thing again. But we want to update that program that actually is okay to make mistakes. It's okay to, forget words. And I love this saying, Louise, even if I got my words muddled, I'll be okay. Even if I lost my train of thought, I'll be okay. So I always tend to now, I'll tag on those words, even if, and I had it recently where with social anxiety, it's also kind of, you feel like you're bound to mess up, you're bound to do something wrong. Any minute now, you're going to mess up and something's going to happen. And so for me, it's always technology. And it would be like, I would be fearing that something with technology would happen. Whereas now it's much more about, okay, so if my Wi-Fi dropped, even if my Wi-Fi dropped, it'll be okay. Even if my phone glitched out, I'd be okay. And so recently, all these things, one after another, was happening. And I was just like, I'll be okay. And it all worked out. It was absolutely fine. And in the end, when we did the actual Zoom workshop in front of about 20 people, it was a bit of a joke. We were making jokes out of it. And it was funny. And it became like a funny thing that we were talking about. We were all sharing our experiences of when, particularly during the pandemic, when we all kind of went online and things were happening with our technology. Whereas before, years ago, it would have been, I can't possibly do anything online because something will go wrong and I'll be humiliated and I'll be judged, and that's just too scary. Yeah.
So I don't really see myself as having social anxiety. When I say to people I'm a bit of an introvert, people go, really? Because when I'm teaching or doing these sort of things, I'm quite confident. But put me in a social situation. Like, for instance, I was in London, a corporate organisation that I work for. We had an office gathering. And as soon as it comes to like us going to start networking, I just ran off to the toilet. And I did the same when we did our networking event a couple of weeks ago. As soon as it was like let's mingle, I just go to the toilet, and I have to kind of like compose myself, because now I've got to try and make conversation with people. And I don't know if this has come from like COVID or just because I work for myself at home a lot now. Just I'm all right one-to-one with people. So being years of being a hairdresser as well, I can go into people's houses and just take control and be the hairdresser. But as soon as I'm put into a situation where we're having to network like that and we're equals, I suppose the imposter syndrome sets in and social anxiety. And I notice myself doing it. I'm like, I need to go to the toilet. I don't need to go to the toilet. But my brain needs to get out of the situation and run away.
Absolutely, yeah. And that can be a symptom of being socially anxious. And when we think about social anxiety, it doesn't have to be in all settings, but it could be that your nervous system has gone into a bit of fight or flight because it's perceiving the situation as scary, or it's unfamiliar. So anything that we do, there is the element of uncertainty or unfamiliarity. The nervous system will want to try and protect us. And we can be an introvert, and we can still be in a situation that's, big group and busy, and feel okay. It just means that if we're an introvert, I would class myself as a bit of an introvert, we just, we would prefer not to be in a group. But if we were in a group, in a big social situation, it would be okay. We might not be the ones that are kind of having all the attention on us and putting our hands up, but it would be okay. We wouldn't necessarily be running off to the toilet beforehand. We'd be fine. We'd just be, there, and it is what it is. But we'd much rather be maybe in our home office, kind of, doing our emails or working people one-to-one. So when we're an introvert, it doesn't necessarily mean to say that we've got social anxiety. Likewise, we might be an extrovert and we could be the life and soul of the party, but we still could be struggling with social anxiety in the background. Yeah.
And it's almost like your mask. That's your mask, isn't it? And that's kind of disguising how you're really feeling.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So bringing it back to how you help people heal, how do you combine hypnotherapy and IEMT so that you can address social anxiety and trauma with your clients?
Yeah, so what I tend to do is in the session, so unlike psychotherapy or other, talking therapies that could take weeks and weeks or months, these two combined are quite sort of fast solution-focused techniques. So normally it's only like maybe 6 to sort of 12 sessions that we'll need. So what I like to do is use integral eye movement in the first few of the sessions, because that really gets deep. If I've got a client coming to me saying, I've got social anxiety, I'm really struggling with panic attacks, I feel like quitting my job, or, even picking up my kids at the school gate, I'm just a nervous wreck and I just can't do it. We'll go right in to try and reduce that anxiety. So we'll have a few sessions where we're focused on the integral eye movement to reduce that anxiety, as much as we can. And then it's nicely aligned. We'll have the general solution-focused hypnotherapy sessions to continue to help to reduce anxiety, but also reframe the way that people perceive situations. So using CBT and NLP to help to retrain the brain. It's kind of like, personal trainer for your brain, helping you to kind of think differently, helping you to develop your awareness of your thought processes. Because a lot of the time, we're only consciously aware 10% of the time. So a lot of our anxiety triggers is on a subconscious level. Like lots of my clients will say, I felt nervous out the blue, I felt anxious out the blue, a panic attack come on out the blue, and I just don't know why. And that's because the subconscious mind, there could be underlying worries about that event that's happening in 6 weeks. It's in 6 weeks. We're not consciously thinking about it, but the subconscious mind's thinking, oh my God, you're doing that event, or oh my goodness, you've got that job interview. And it's already preempting, you're going to be embarrassed, people are going to judge you. So the hypnotherapy is a good way to work on the conscious thinking and also subconsciously changing the way that we think and the way that we view the world as well. So normally it's integral eye movement, the first couple of sessions, followed on by the hypnotherapy.
Yeah, I suppose it's getting people to be in the moment as well, isn't it? Not worrying too much about the whole future, about panicking 6 weeks in advance for something that might happen.
Absolutely. And so a lot of that is, helping people to understand the sort of the techniques to be in the moment, because we are absolutely happiest in the present moment. 50% of the time, we're worried about the future, we're worried about the past, we're happiest in the now. So a lot of that comes down to mindfulness is a really effective way to help to reduce social anxiety or anxiety in general, being very mindful, being aware of what you're thinking, and trying to kind of redirect or reframe the way that you think about a situation.
Awesome. So just another example of me, I just wonder how you would speak with someone who had maybe a bit of anxiety about coming to you for, it's a lot of people have this misconception about what we're doing in the brain. Like, what are you doing with my brain? Like, are you kind of rewiring my brain to think a certain way? So just an example for me, when I was going through a domestically abusive relationship, my ex-partner had hit me. I was heavily pregnant with my son, and we went to have some couples counselling. And he was a hypnotherapist, and he'd done a couples hypnotherapy with us. And I completely freaked out. Obviously, I was heavily pregnant. At that time, I'm going back quite a few years, and we had Paul McKenna, and he used to get people up on stage to do like crazy things. So I had this thing in my head that he's going to make me say something, he's going to make me do something that's going to get me in trouble, and this is going to make the situation worse. Obviously, this is quite an extreme example, but just if anyone kind of has any kind of, not that you would do couples hypnotherapy to someone who's going through an abusive relationship anyway, but if someone was to come into you and think, well, I've been through trauma, I've been through some sort of abuse, you're going to be putting me under some sort of hypnosis, I'm not quite aware of what's going on, you're going to make me memorize this and my eyes are going to be doing stuff. How would you kind of really comfort someone in knowing that this is a really safe place for you to come, and this is a completely safe, we're not doing anything, we're not, changing your brain or putting anything in your mate, you're going to start jumping around the garden like a chicken or anything like that? How would you kind of really give someone that?
Yes. So that's a really good question, Louise. And you know what? Lots and lots of people are nervous about trying something new, particularly when it comes to hypnosis, because there's, that sort of misconception that it is like stage hypnosis, that we're going to count to three and click our fingers and you're going to be completely under, and no sort of conscious awareness of what's going on, and mind control. And it really isn't anything like that. It's a very deep state of relaxation. So it's more about, you're on the couch, and if you imagine, when you're really tired and you're quite comfortable, you're sinking into your bed, and maybe it's a bit of a cold chill in your bedroom, and you've got your warm duvet keeping you nice and warm, and you feel ready to sleep, and you're not quite asleep, but you're not quite awake. You just feel really content, and your mind's kind of drifting into conscious awareness, and you might drift off to a thought, to an image, whatever it might be, and you just feel really relaxed. So kind of like if when you're on holiday, or maybe relaxing your garden, you're sunbathing, you're kind of drifting in and out. It's very much like that. So you're fully aware of what's going on. And in that relaxed state, our brain waves start to change. So they change to a way that it means the subconscious is very open to suggestion, how you want to be feeling. You're fully in control, and you're fully aware of what's going on. And so what I would say to people, if you're feeling a bit nervous, you're thinking, I would like to try this, but actually I'm not too sure. Karina's trying to reassure me that it's okay and it's safe and it's okay. What I would say to you is really kind of, get a sense as to whatever therapist you're going to approach, really kind of get to know them first. That might be, checking out their social media. That might be checking out their testimonials and their reviews on their website or on Google. That might be, just phoning them up for like a free chat and listening to the sound of their voice. Lots of therapists will have 3 audios that you can listen to. So you can listen to the hypnosis track on your phone in the comfort of your own room, and you can get a sense as to what they're like. I mean, I offer a consultation. So the consultation really is about an opportunity for me to share what hypnosis is, what it will look like, the brain and how the brain works. It's an opportunity for them to ask any questions. So before we kind of dive deep, there's an hour together, seeing if I'm the right person for them. And they get to sort of check out my room. If they're here in person or on Zoom, they can kind of see the surroundings. So really kind of doing your homework really, and getting to know your therapist. And if you've got any questions, feeling free to message and email. But usually what happens is that at the consultation, people normally come to me and they're kind of hypnotherapy, and it's really sad actually, but hypnotherapy is like their last ditch attempt to try and, they're at their wit's end. It's got to a point where it's too difficult, the overwhelming anxiety, and they've tried everything, the medication, the counseling, the CBT, all the things. And it might just be on a whim, okay, someone's mentioned hypnotherapy, I'll give it a go. I'm not too sure. It probably won't work. It's normally like that. And then they come and it's like, oh my goodness, I wish I tried this sooner, because actually I'm learning about the brain. I never even understood this is why I had anxiety. I never realized there were ways to change the way that I think. I didn't realize that deep relaxation could reduce stress and make me feel much more positive and calm afterwards. So usually people are pleasantly surprised. I'm not too sure if that answers your question. It's a bit of a ramble there.
No, totally. I think that's it, is having, I think with most kind of treatments that you have privately, you have the privilege of being able to explore different options and getting to know whoever you're going to be working with, and getting recommendations. And, we always offer a free chemistry call or discovery call or connection call, what different people call it different things, but normally you get a chance to speak to them before.
And also you can fortunately now hypnosis is becoming a bit more acceptable and sort of standard modalities. I love listening to podcasts. I'm always learning self-development, things like that. And there are lots of, well-respected and highly regarded neuroscientists and, psychologists who are recommending hypnotherapy and hypnosis, who are saying, actually, this really does help to reduce anxiety. Lots of medical papers now, and hypnosis being used in many hospitals in the UK to help reduce IBS symptoms, which often is related to stress and anxiety. Many sort of dental practitioners are training in hypnosis to help to relax their patients before they go in and they have their teeth out. So the medical profession are now looking into hypnosis and the power of the mind. And when you actually think about it, it's our mind, it's our perception of a situation that's triggering these real physical sensations in the body. So by using hypnosis, or not just hypnosis, anything that might help to kind of, learn about the mind, we can start to tap into the power of the mind to calm and relax us and have a different perception of the situation. So it's becoming a bit more mainstream now. And so it might even be that you go off to your, Spotify or Apple or YouTube, whatever it is, and just be curious. Be curious. Think, oh, quite like, try out hypnotherapy and do a bit of your own research and find some people you think, actually, I respect them. I know a bit about them and they're telling me it's okay. And I'm going to go off and find a practitioner.
Thank you. That's really, really helpful. And it's really good to know that these alternative therapies, all the stuff that we do, are starting to be more recognised in the medical profession. So what are your future goals with your hypnotherapy and IEMT and supporting individuals with social anxiety and trauma?
Yeah. So I am, I've always got all these ideas, much like you, Louise, of, how can I help more people? How can I reach more people? And sometimes, one-on-one, people might find that a bit too much for them. Maybe they're not in the right time. Maybe financially, that's a bit too much. So I'm trying to make it a bit more accessible. So I'm trying to create more content on my social media, on my Instagram, on my Facebook. I'm also looking at creating a digital online course aimed at helping people with social anxiety to increase their confidence, their self-belief, make them feel a bit more at ease socially. So whether that's out and about in groups, whether it's, at work, they're wanting to put themselves out there, sort of public speaking, things like that. So yeah, I'm looking at leaning towards creating more digital courses that are self-led, self-paced, that people can do in the comfort of their own home, that can give them a taster as to what it's all about. And then the next step might be, if they decide to come and work with me, one-to-one.
Awesome. That sounds great. So it sounds like you've got lots planned in the future. So it would be ideal if people listening to this would, sign up for your newsletters, or do you have anything on your website, kind of people, so people can sign up? It's a bit of an incentive, maybe.
Yes, absolutely. So if they head over to my website, so it's Karina Price Hypnotherapy, and they'll see, free resources. You can sign up to my weekly newsletter. Head over to my Instagram, Karina Price Hypnotherapy, where I'll be sharing more content aimed at helping with anxiety and specifically social anxiety as well.
Awesome. Well, was there anything else that you wanted to add to our conversation? Is there anything that I've not covered here?
No. I would just say that if you're feeling a little bit sort of apprehensive and you think that it's a little bit woo-woo, then you're not alone. I felt like that too. And when I was really struggling with social anxiety, I then turned to hypnotherapy to help me, and it really did help me. I had a fear of driving on the motorway, I had a fear of public speaking, and I was pleasantly surprised. So I would say just be open-minded, because remember, our subconscious mind is that automatic part of the brain which makes us think the way that we always think, and we don't always kind of challenge our thoughts. So just maybe tap into being a bit more curious about what might help you and what might benefit you.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show again. It's been an absolute pleasure having you.
Thanks so much. It's been great. Thanks for having me.
We'll look forward to having you on again.
Brilliant. Yes, me too. Okay, thanks, Louise.
Thank you. As promised, here are a few journaling questions to think about or write about to reflect on our conversation today. So how have your personal experiences shaped your social anxiety or imposter syndrome? How do you normally respond to social anxiety, and what are some healthier ways you could try instead? What negative thoughts do you often have, and how can you change them to boost your self-esteem? Which techniques from the episode, like hypnotherapy, IEMT, or the rewind technique, interests you the most, and how might it help you and what can you learn about it? And how can practicing mindfulness and staying present help you handle anxiety in social situations? Thank you for listening to this episode of the Secrets in the Powder Room podcast with me, Louise Bryant. For more journaling questions, check the link in the description or visit my podcast blog at louisebryant.coach. As always, feel free to connect with us on social media to share your thoughts and suggestions for future episodes. Until next time, remember, self-belief is the first step towards overcoming any challenges. Take care, and we'll see you next episode.